Welcome to Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth, the podcast where we explore the beautiful, messy and transformative magic that happens when we dare to go within. I'm your host, Robin Harris, and in each episode we'll dive into real, honest stories from people who've faced their fears, embraced their vulnerabilities and discovered unexpected growth in their personal lives, careers, or businesses. This is a space for deep listening, open hearts, and soul-nourishing conversations. Because when we meet ourselves in our rawest moments, that's often where our greatest wisdom starts. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth, VIG podcast. And today I am absolutely delighted to welcome Margherita Frezza, I hope I'm pronouncing that okay, to this conversation. And Margherita is an ADHD coach, late diagnosed woman who has learned to love the brain that she once tried to fix. I absolutely love how you've expressed that, Margherita, and now helps adult women to unmask, to let go of that sense of shame and to build a life where ADHD is a strength rather than a struggle. That is such a wonderful way of expressing the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. This is obviously a work that I do for others, but also I had to do for myself first. So it is definitely close to my heart because it is my heart and my brain that is ADHD.
And I think that's so common that we go on a journey ourselves and we take on board all of this learning, and then we want to share it with others to maybe support them and help them to avoid some of the pitfalls that we find along our way. But I'm going to start today, as I do with all of my guests, with 3 questions. First of all, what makes your story relatable for others?
Well, many adults are ADHD late diagnosed, or they're not diagnosed at all, and they might be neurodivergent. They might think there is something about them that is different. So I want to speak to all those people that might think there's something wrong with me, and maybe there isn't. Probably there isn't. Definitely there isn't.
Absolutely. And what do you feel, who do you feel will gain the most from listening into this conversation?
Definitely everybody that is a late diagnosed and neurodivergent, and not just a ADHD person, but in general, everybody that thinks everybody around them is succeeding at life and are doing incredible, and they don't feel that they are doing it. They feel that they're wrong and they're out of place.
Love that too, because I think there are so many people in that place right now.
Yeah.
And what do you hope people will take away from this conversation?
Well, the idea that being and acting neurodivergent in this world is not being wrong, is not being out of place. There is a place for neurodivergent people in the world, and it's such an important place that we need to own and be proud of in our society. So, yeah, to let go of the shame and start loving the neurodivergence.
Oh, that is such an important message, and it's giving me goosebumps just hearing you say that. I hope that there are people listening, and maybe listening, you are thinking there are people in your life who need to hear this message. So do please feel free to share, and I'll be also sharing Margherita's contact details in the show notes, so feel free to pass those on as well. Margherita, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? As you said, you're a late diagnosed ADHD woman. So can you tell us what it was like before you received the diagnosis, going through the process to be diagnosed, and the difference that it has made for you?
So I've always been different. I was the child in school that was so intelligent but did not try hard enough, while my experience was that I was trying harder than anybody else that was just studying at home and then succeeding in their academic lives. These also affected obviously all my social interactions. A lot of my life went through things. I'd never finished college for just one exam. I never stuck with a career. I changed many, many careers in my life. And divorce is also on the table, and financial issues are also on the table here. And so I went through my life struggling, really. And finally, I was an adult with a good job, well paid, a career, and everything. And I was like, I'm still struggling so much every single day. And one day I realized that my colleagues to do the same things and getting way better results and very basic things like taking notes from a meeting, they were not struggling. I was. So I went asking for a diagnosis and I shared these fears. And my biggest fears, I guess, in life were about being stupid, because oh, she's so intelligent, but she's not trying hard enough. But if I'm trying so hard and still I'm not succeeding, maybe they're wrong. Maybe I'm not intelligent. Maybe I'm stupid. And I went through this very comprehensive, thankfully, assessment that also included an IQ test, but also tested me for many other things. And in the end, the answer was, you're not stupid, first of all. And they didn't even hear about my diagnosis, and they started crying because it was such a weight lifted off me. And all this baggage from 20 years, 30 years of life. I was diagnosed at 38 at that point. And it changed the whole view about me in 1 second. And then they went on with the ADHD diagnosis, what ADHD meant, but knowing it from a specialist, hearing them saying what is ADHD, actually did not. Yeah, it resonated with me, but to a certain point. And then you start realizing that stuff you thought were your own quirks and your own special quirks and personality traits, and you're like, oh no, this is actually ADHD, and it's in common with a huge community of people. And suddenly there was all this reshaping my own identity through, instead of the lens of I am lazy, I have ADHD, and starting tasks or finishing tasks can be very hard for ADHD people. So I'm not lazy, I'm ADHD. So knowing that I have ADHD, how can I still do things now that I know it's not a motivation thing, it's not a will thing. And this went on for many, many things. And this brought me to the career where I am now, of course, because all these things, all this work that I've done alone, I really wished I had someone to hold my hand and ask the right questions and say, oh, this actually is something that is present in ADHD. How does it relate to your experience? And that would have been so much easier. But still, I'm here today and my life has changed completely. But most of all, my outlook on me has changed completely.
As a small child, to be told that you are intelligent, you're just not trying hard enough. When you feel inside like I'm giving it my all, so I can't be intelligent if I'm giving my all and I'm still not achieving what you're telling me I should be achieving. So it must be me.
Yes.
I must be broken. There must be something wrong with me. And when we're really small, we just take that on board, don't we? We don't filter it. We don't think, well, that can't be right. We think you're an adult. You're the teacher. You're a parent. you must know best.
Yes.
Because you've been here longer than me, you're older than me. Therefore, if you're not happy with my level of achievement, it must be me.
Yes.
But we can't say that to anybody. So we just carry that around inside, and what a heavy weight that is for a small child. You know, you just think, if that was your own child, how much we would want to take that burden away from them, how much we would want to tell them how special and precious and amazing they are. But that doesn't, or certainly didn't, generally happen. And even now, we think that the world has changed and things have moved forward, but there are still so many, like you say, children, adults who maybe have a condition, but they don't have the diagnosis to know it's not me, I'm not broken. And like you say, we're all just, we've got our quirky little traits, and some of them may be due to something like ADHD, some of them may be just our own. But to know that that's okay, and that if it is, like you say, you get a diagnosis and you know, oh, my quirky little trait is actually one that I share with a whole community, a whole bunch of people. Suddenly I'm not alone.
Yes.
And that's huge for me, that sense of being alone versus that sense of, no, I'm not. I've got a community. There are other people out there like me. And should I choose to, I can reach out to them. We can communicate. We can go, this is my experience. And they'll go, me too. And just that sense of, oh, we're the same on that level. We're the same. Obviously, everybody's an individual, but this is something I share with another human being.
Exactly. And there is a song that really resonated with me from a Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, a great show if you don't know it. And the song is called A Diagnosis. And the quote is, I realize mental illness is stigmatized, but the stigma is worth it if I realize who I'm meant to be armed with my diagnosis. And that part of who I am meant to be is so important, because the fact is that we all try to fit into this neurotypical mold that people say you are meant to be this kind of adult. You are meant to think this way and to feel these emotions and these physical emotions as well. And suddenly you're like, no, you are meant to be a different kind of adult. And that different kind of adult is so useful to society, and no one tells us while we grow up.
But permission to be you. Because I agree, I think every single individual, no matter what diagnosis they may or may not have, has amazing gifts that only they bring in the way that they bring them right here, right now. And if we don't allow that person, give that person permission to be themselves and to express those gifts in the way that only they can, then we don't have that. We're missing it. And I think that the universe brings things that are appropriate for that time. So if we don't get that from that person, we've lost it. And they're left feeling like it's their problem, they don't fit. They're the one they are the problem. They're the one with the problem, they are the problem. So what is the key number one takeaway that you would love to share with people out there who might be listening and might be thinking, this is sounding a bit like my experience?
Yes. So getting a diagnosis or not is obviously an incredibly personal decision. And for everybody that thinks a diagnosis will not change anything, I just like to say that a diagnosis is knowledge. And the more knowledge you share, the more awareness you have about yourself, the more you can function in the world. Because without that awareness, we don't know what is that is blocking us from doing something. And it was such an important and liberating experience for me and for many of my clients as well. And the fact is that sometimes it's true in some places with some people, neurodiverse people are not allowed or safe to show their true selves still, even after a diagnosis, even after all the work is not about us, is about expectations of other people and how they are safe for us to show up with them. This doesn't change the fact that we can unmask safely in some places or in some ways. So, for example, one little way I am unmasking is to bring my cat ears to my clients and to my business calls, etc., because this is me. This is my true playful and silly and ADHD self, and behind me there are lightsabers. It is a lot of that instinctual, playful, childlike self that I'm bringing to people. And I know that I can because I worked on it and I'm safe enough. And if someone says, well, you're too childlike, I says who? So awareness and unmasking safely. Those are two things that are so important for all of us. I really hope that by hearing this, even one person will say, oh, I am ADHD, and I never thought about unmasking safely around my colleague that I like and I trust. Maybe you can with one person, and then maybe experiment with someone else or in a different way. Or there might be someone that really resonates with this and thinks maybe it is time to go for a diagnosis. Or maybe you just want to start reading about it and see on how much you resonate with it before. And it's all knowledge, and it's so precious.
I love what you say about self-awareness, because that for me is so important for everybody. Doesn't matter what your neuro label might be, divergent, typical, somewhere in between, whatever. I think for all of us to develop that awareness of who am I? Because I think we all live in a society that does tend to want us to be in a certain way. And whether we are neurodivergent or not, we are all individuals. We're not all the same. We're not clones of each other. So I love what you said about that. That just permission to be yourself, whoever you are. But also playfulness. If anybody's been following me for a while, you'll know that I'm very serious about play. I think it's so important to bring in play and fun. And the more permission we give ourselves to do that, the more relaxed we can be. That supports our well-being in so many ways. And when we want to learn something new, bringing play in. So if you're seeking to make any changes in your life, it's not about pushing against the old habits. For me, it's about playfully exploring, what do you want to create? Getting curious, being compassionate. I think all of that comes in here very much. So yes, playfulness. And I think you've kind of touched on the gifts that people who have a neurodivergent diagnosis or they have neurodivergence, they are neurodivergent, bring to society. Play, I think, is a huge one. Just if you are a playful person like yourself, or play is expressed obviously in lots of different ways. For you, it's lightsabers and cat ears. For other people, it might be how they dress. For others, games that they play, or whatever it might be. But that gives everybody else permission to not take life so seriously. I think that's nearly a disease of our modern society, that we tend to take everything so seriously, and we get such a lot of fear and serious news thrown at us 24/7, 365 on our phones and news channels and all the rest of it. So to have that permission to just go back to being childlike, not childish, but childlike. And that's very much a part of what wild is. That W in wild is wonder, with those childlike eyes, just to see the world with fun and amazement, and it's all fresh and new and exciting.
And in a sense, unmasking is something that every adult could do, because we are all wearing this mask of adultness on us. But I hear a lot of clients starting a session with, oh, what did you like to do when you were a child? Oh, I used to draw. But then I stopped because, I didn't have time. It's not really related to my unmasking journey. And then at the very end, when I ask something about what will you do to unmask now as an adult safely, usually the reply is, well, I will start drawing again because I used to love it and it used to bring me joy. So the first question would be, what is that used to bring you joy when you were a child and then you stopped doing for any reason? And how can you bring that back safely into your life? Maybe it was dancing, and maybe you can put on a TikTok tutorial in your bedroom when you're alone and do it for half an hour and just have the time of your life. Or maybe you can get all your friends and go to a club on Saturday night. It doesn't matter, but how can you do it to bring back the sense of joy, the sense of yourself, your true deep self coming out and have fun?
I also love, you've touched on safety a few times, and for me, that is huge. Creating that sense of safety for ourselves, where we feel we can express who we are, and that being safe versus being in fear is such a big thing for our well-being, because we can only fight or be supporting our well-being and recovering from illness and maintaining our very cells and their health. We can't do both at the same time. So when we're in fear, how can we make that shift? And I'm sure for a lot of people, like you say about everybody wears masks. Why do we generally wear them? Because of sense of fear or shame, or both. So finding spaces, creating spaces where we feel safe to start taking those off. And like you say, through play, because that helps to bring us that sense of safety as well, doesn't it? Because we're having fun then, and it's okay.
And it's interesting what you said about fear. To me, so fear, our brain's job is to keep us safe. It's not to keep us happy, it's to keep us safe. So our fears were created at some point in our lives to keep us safe in a way. But how they keep us safe now is not really serving us anymore a lot of times, right? So the idea of you can't be yourself around people because otherwise you will have rejection, and it probably happened at some point in your life for you to think that and for you to have that fear. Right now is also stopping you from bringing your true self and being loved for who you really are at your core. So at that point, what is that could serve me better instead of that fear? And it's about talking to that fear and say, what are you protecting me from? How can I actually reshape this thought of I can't ever do that with people to maybe I can do it with one person and see? Or maybe I want to do it at work because I work in corporate, but I can do it at my book club. And these little shifts is all around, again, awareness and knowing. yourself and what you need and what, in this case, your fears come from. But everything that your brain does, it's really protecting yourself. I have a huge appreciation for my fears and my blockers, because I'm like, thank you, brain, for wanting to protect me. And also, let's redirect this to a healthier way that now is bringing me more joy or happiness or authenticity.
Absolutely, because I completely agree that our brain is just trying to keep us safe. We have learnt rules growing up that were given by adults who probably wanted to keep us safe too, and some of those were around behaviours and norms and what's acceptable and what isn't. But those were of that time, and they were their norms and feelings around what we should and shouldn't do that they'd taken on from somebody. Doesn't mean to say that now that we're an adult, we still have to follow those. We get to choose. And yes, absolutely, to playfully stretch our comfort zone. And I don't like to say go outside of your comfort zone. If somebody has been traumatized, that can be a trauma trigger, but rather go to the edge of it and just play with it with curiosity and with compassion and with play. And then you can take more steps and more steps and more steps and to start to expand it further and grow through awareness and through play and just having fun, that permission to have fun. So one last thing kind of I'd like to ask you is, what number one tip would you share for people who are listening into this and feeling maybe stuck, maybe not safe? What would you say to them?
It definitely depends. That's the point. Our experiences with ADHD, let's remember that if you have a neurodivergence, you are way more likely in life to be met with rejection and critique in life. First of all, accept that as that feeling of have been rejected, of being in fear, not feeling safe is real. That it doesn't come from a paranoia. It is real. It's something that actually happened. And in that, how can you make one small change in the next week? One little change. And for everybody is a different one, to bring back that you. They used to be you and then stopped being you at some point. How can you bring back that drawing that you used to like, or that singing that people said that you weren't good at? How can you bring back the joy of dancing or be childish? What is the silly t-shirt that you're like, no, this is not really for anybody, so I'm not going to wear it because it doesn't look good, but it's so you. How can you do this and honor yourself in that way? So honor really that little part, that true part of yourself. And then keep making these little changes. And you will see such a change in other people. Suddenly, when I wear dinosaur earrings, people will stop me in the street and say, those are so cool. I love those. People will say, you are cool. You are interesting. You will make different friends, new friends, and friends that actually love you for your quirks and who you are without a mask. And it's so interesting. Just try one thing.
And I love what you said about honoring ourselves. I think that is so important. And small steps. We don't have to change everything overnight. It's about those small, simple, doable steps that start to build their own momentum. Because like you say, you wear your dinosaur earrings one day and somebody in the street stops you and tells you how cool you are. And ooh, that feels so different. And the more we get of that, the more we do those sorts of things, the more we get those comments, the better we feel. And it ripples through. It's those stacking impacts that ripple through our lives and start to make big changes. So thank you so much, Margherita, for joining me today and for sharing wonderful, wonderful wisdom. Finally, just to ask you, where can people find you? How can they connect with you?
You can find me always at my website, unveil.com, unveiladhd.com. Oh my, I'm saying my own website wrong, unveiladhd.com. I do ADHD coaching online, so anyone from all over can coach with me. I am based in Ireland, and I also do workshops and events in Ireland, sometimes for my ADHD peeps here.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much again, Margherita. It's been fantastic chatting with you today. And thank you very much for watching. Please do remember, if you are watching this and finding it helpful, feel free to share. And maybe join us again next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth. I hope it's given you a moment to breathe, reflect, and perhaps even see your own story with a little more compassion. If you find this conversation meaningful, I'd love it if you'd share, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps others find their way here too. Until next time, take gentle care. And remember, the journey inwards is where the real growth begins.